In the age of hustle culture, we're often pushed to do more, faster, and harder, chasing efficiency through rigid schedules and endless task lists. And productivity becomes a sprint. We basically hustle until we crash. Okay, but what if there was another way to do things? What if we strip down the methods that we use until they're just the basics? They just do what they need to do. Maybe in that simplicity, we'd find something else too, a kind of kindness with ourselves, a gentleness. Somewhere along the way, we seem to have lost track of the why. And even productivity needs a purpose. Why the list? Why the task? Why the goal? And all of these questions about the why, they basically disappear during our day-to-day. Life is so chaotic, the rhythm is so overwhelming that we just start saying yes for the sake of it and forget to ask ourselves, why am I saying yes to this exactly? Sometimes we just want quiet, the kind that comes from sitting with a pen and paper or staring at a blank page on a screen. That focused stillness where you're so absorbed in what you're doing, where everything else fades away. You strip things down to the essentials, not out of pressure, but out of clarity. You stop caring about what everyone else is doing. You just want to understand what you are doing and what works for you. And that's what soft productivity is. It's gentle, it balances achievement with well-being, and makes room for flow, reflection, and sustainable growth. I feel like nowadays, productivity has become extremely prescriptive. Basically, the world hands you a checklist and it tells you if you want to be productive, you have to do this, 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 and this. You have to have a fully organized system in this app. You have to buy this particular notebook and this particular pen. And you need to have this sort of 10-step morning routine for things to work out for you. And if you do not have that morning routine, you are not going to be a CEO. Perhaps you do not want to be a CEO. I do not want to be a CEO. Thing is, you do not need a carefully optimized system of 20 apps, 5 color-coded spreadsheets, and a calendar that runs your life down to the minutes. Your needs aren't my needs, your schedule isn't my schedule. And for many of us, the idea of soft productivity only surfaces when burnout does. We discover burnout when all of our carefully crafted systems begin to fail. When the tools that were supposed to help us suddenly feel like burdens. They stop making us feel accomplished and instead leave us feeling behind, overwhelmed, and inadequate. All of that hustling, the pressure, and the rigid structure do not work anymore. Now you're going to ask me, why is this a problem? It's a problem because, hard productivity at its core is ruining people. It has ruined me. I have burned out way too many times for someone who just turned 30. I've burned out way too many times. It's not supposed to be like that. Basically, hard productivity ruins your ability to trust yourself and to believe that you know what you need to do to be productive and do really high quality work. The thing is, we need to do the opposite. We need to reinforce the feedback loop that tells us we are capable. We can do the things that we tell ourselves we are supposed to do. But the problem is that life is unpredictable and it has its slow moments. Places of quiet where nothing really happens, where you are allowed to do nothing or do less, and have these empty spaces in your schedule that are scary because you're giving yourself time to think. And yet, those empty spaces in the schedule can feel terrifying because you're sitting with yourself. And productivity is supposed to be simple. When you remember a task, you jot it down. You find the time, you tick off the box. When the task is done, it should disappear from your to-do list, and that will also make it disappear from your mind, avoiding mental clutter and fatigue. Over the past 2 decades, despite the explosion of productivity tools, macroeconomic productivity growth has slowed, what some call the modern productivity paradox. The core lesson is that tools and techniques aren't magic. More fundamental is your ability to focus, to prioritize, and to rest. And in a way, I think there's a major problem with productivity tools. There are simply way too many of them. We start to lose sight of the bigger picture and forget why you use those tools in the first place, which is basically storing tasks in a reliable system so we can free up mental space. Remember when a simple post-it note was enough? That's the sort of productivity I'm craving right now. You jot down a task and just get it done. And now we spend so much time maintaining our productivity systems that we lose track of their original purpose. So all in all, you do not need a super complex productivity system to remember to water your plants. Perhaps you actually do need that very complex productivity system, but perhaps you don't. Maybe all you need is a bullet point. You water the plant, you check it off, it's done. But in a culture obsessed with optimization, even the simplest task can become a project. Suddenly, watering your plants turns into a 10-step process. First, you build a system, then you maintain the system, and then you get overwhelmed by the system. And then you will inevitably fall behind. Productivity is cyclical, life is cyclical. So what will happen is that there will be one day where you will just forget to water your plant because you're ill, because your spouse is ill, because your dog is ill, because something happened at work. And when you forget to water your plant, not only do you forget to water the plant, you're also going to forget maintaining this super complex productivity system where that task had been logged into. And once you forget to maintain your system, the system collapses. Life is made of different components, and it's already so difficult to remember everything you have to do for each part of your life. So in a way, I think scaling back and seeing all of these parts side by side in card format, just like separate notebooks or separate folders, give you the best bird's eye view. It's supposed to be simple, just a visual aid to let you know how much you actually have on your plate. So many of the overwhelming systems we build exist because we're addicted to making decisions. We crave an illusion of control, of productivity, and of precision. But what if the decisions were already made? What if the simplicity instead of the complexity was the key? And there's nothing more effective for reducing decision fatigue than simplicity. So before you commit to a 10-step morning routine, ask yourself, do all of these 10 steps actually make a difference? What do I have to gain from each one of those steps? Can I write it down right now? Or am I just following someone else's routine who is promising the world if I follow these steps? Because I follow these steps, I get the vibes of a CEO, then I become a millionaire or something. Is it because of that? Or can you actually write down, you can extract the value of each one of those steps and find a reason to completely change your schedule around that prescription and include that in your routine? Is it worth the stress, the micromanagement, and the constant tracking? Is it worth sacrificing your freedom, the space to breathe, to wander aimlessly through your home in the morning, and to exist without structure for a minute? Can you honestly say you're connected to the core value of these steps? Because if the system strips away your agency, if it's built on pressure instead of purpose, then maybe it's not serving you at all. In fact, so much of productivity is about consistency and not constant acceleration. These are completely different things. Consistency will depend a lot on how confident you are in the system that you have built. If you are confident, if your system supports the 3 key areas of productivity in a way that makes sense for your lifestyle and your mental health, that's when you will start becoming consistent. The 3 key areas of a productive lifestyle include knowledge, which is information, notes, and reference material; tasks, which are actionable items that produce an output; events, which are scheduled commitments you need to attend. And, when your system handles all 3 very well, you can focus on doing the work instead of managing the system itself. And that is soft productivity. Overall, the way we think about hard productivity often leads to burnout, decreased creativity, and lower morale. Soft productivity, however, emphasizes recovery, not just rest, but also reflection and pauses between focus sessions. So the 3 principles of productivity are very simple. So first of all, focus on flow instead of rigid schedules. Flow does not mean being chaotic. Flow means making decisions inside a time frame. So for instance, you might have realized perhaps that you are way more creative in the morning and that you really slow down in the afternoon. So using a flow-based approach basically means that if you have creative tasks, you will work on those creative tasks in the morning. So these are your goalposts. But on the other hand, you are going to decide according to your own rhythm what you should be working on and how much you will accomplish during that time. Another thing that I love is shifting from a perspective of must-do tasks to could-do tasks. Some of our tasks, of course, are must. So if you have a deadline at work, of course, that you have to do something. But honestly, when we look at our lists of tasks, those are probably like 10 to 20% of our tasks. And most of them are things that we signed up for or that we feel we should be doing. Those are your could be doing tasks. I could do this and perhaps I will. But if I do not get to it, it's not an immediate failure. Finally, super important principle as well, pausing and resting is not wasted time. Pausing and resting are so essential because when you rest and when you pause, you give yourself the space to recover and to ensure that when you start working, you will give it 100%, 110% instead of giving it like 50% because you're so burned out, you can't even focus on the task at hand. When it comes to tools, soft productivity is not about ditching tools, it's about choosing tools that actually make sense for your lifestyle. Once again, for me personally, unless you have, and you may have, a really complex job where you have to manage like dozens of projects simultaneously and you have to manage dozens of people simultaneously, you can probably opt for a more simplistic productivity tool. And that is where Craft Docs excels and where they come in. Craft Docs is a beautifully designed app that's a perfect companion for soft productivity. Imagine that basically you can work on your computer like you were writing in a bullet journal. That's exactly what you can do with Craft Docs. You can create beautiful themed journals and documents, and all of the things that you jot down in your documents can be turned into tasks that you can then schedule. It's just like elevating your writing experience and turn your ideas into tangible tasks that you can then incorporate into your schedule. Craft works very well because it has a modular block-based approach that adapts your workflow. It basically does not require you to adopt any sort of forced schedule. You can drag and drop things around, and you can create multiple sets of notes. Craft also allows you to link your pages and nest them so that even if you're writing things separately, if you realize that two things are interconnected, you can definitely add that organization, that link inside the app. The integrated tasks and calendar view lets you weave in reminders and due dates into the fabric of your notes and your ideas so that your ideas can be transformed into tasks, and then you can look at your calendar and know exactly when you're going to do something. If you're using Craft on mobile, you can use Quick Add to capture any sort of spark of inspiration in a tab. So any idea, any note you want to take, there will be a place to add it to, and then you can organize it. Craft also has a style-first design philosophy, and this will help you create journals, notes, and project documents that will feel actually very inspiring. You have so many different options, themes, typography. The UI is so simple to use, it gives you all the best options to design your pages without making it overwhelming. So we always want to keep that core of soft productivity intact. In essence, Craft supports your mind's natural flow. You can start with a daily note, slide into a project document, gather research, stash ideas mid-thought, and return later in a very fluid and visual way. The task reminders appear next to your calendar, and your space will feel very curated and calming. It blends structure with openness and design with calm functionality, and this basically means that it's your ideal canvas for soft productivity. With beautifully rendered pages, integrated tasks, and quick ad capture, it lets you glide quickly between notes, thoughts, and schedule. In a way, it's your soft productivity life lived in a space that supports creativity, rest, and focus. Okay, so to get started, download Craft and you can use my code Mariana50 and that gives you a 50% lifetime discount. Meaning you subscribe either monthly or annually and you'll have 50% discount forever with my code. So once again, to start your life with soft productivity, download Craft today and use their beautiful templates to start getting organized on what really matters and simplify your life as much as you can.